Are you feeling lost in a digital wilderness? Welcome to Lost in Cyberia. We are your guide to navigating the world of cyberspace.
So whether you're a tech enthusiast or you're looking to land your first job in InfoSec, we're here to break things down into bite-sized pieces so that you don't have to. So welcome to another episode of Lost in Cyberia. We're your hosts, Annie May
and Annika.
And today we've got a special guest on the show. We've got Hortense Rothery, who's here from Volkis, and we are recording here today from Sydney. So welcome, Hortense.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'll just read out a quick bio about you. So Hortense has an interesting career journey. She transitioned from fashion design to software development before finding her true calling in the security industry. As a relationship manager at Volkis, she manages partnerships, client relationships, and marketing. Volkis is renowned for its bespoke penetration testing, red team operations, and strategic advisory services. Outside of work, Hortense finds balance away from screens by spending time with her dog, restoring and crafting furniture, tending to her garden, and enjoying camping adventures. So that's quite an interesting career journey. We met at CyberCon in Canberra, Melbourne, wasn't it?
In Melbourne, 2023.
Let's start off just understanding a little bit about your career journey, because transitioning from fashion to cybersecurity, that's quite a big transition. Can you talk a little bit about your career path?
Yeah, sure. So it was mostly by accident. I always wanted to do fashion. I always was interested in construction and clothing and all of that. But I was also I was pretty interested in maths and science as a kid. It wasn't very cool to do maths and science. I remember primary school, I was top 2% in high distinction in maths for, I can't remember what it is some kind of exam you do. And then I went to high school and suddenly it was not cool to put your hand up and be smart. And I kind of followed what I was definitely interested in as well, which was design. And so did that all through school and then ended up applying for Otago Fashion down in Dunedin in New Zealand. And I got in a provisional entry, so I didn't have to finish my final year of school, which was really awesome. And also I still have nightmares about doing those final exams that I never did. So yeah, then I studied fashion and that was really great. I mean, it was really hard work. It's a lot more complicated than anyone gives it credit for, construction especially. And there was a software side to it as well, which is kind of imagine 3D printing, but for clothing. So I had graduated and then went into work in fashion. So obviously did hospo to start because it doesn't happen exactly like you think it will. And then went and managed a retail store and then went and worked for a big fashion label in New Zealand. First of all in the online store, just picking and packing. And then I ended up moving up to managing that and then looking after the wholesale dispatch coordination. I then had my own business for a couple of years. And then I moved over to Melbourne, went and worked at Birkenstock, got lots of shoes half price. So I've got 9 pairs at home. Did online sales again there. And then COVID hit. And then I basically had to leave that job and move back to New Zealand and went and lived in my auntie's beach house by myself in a town of 100 people. And it's a bit of a weird experience. It was really peaceful and nice. And then also what am I doing with my life? So I gave myself a good hard look in the mirror and was you need to get a real job. You need to get something that is going to sustain you now. So decided to study software development. So then
At the beach house?
I applied from the beach house. I left the beach house. I moved to Wellington and with some friends and then, studied software development in Wellington. From there, I didn't want to be a software developer. I liked it. It was interesting, but it was not something I could sustain 8 hours a day. I couldn't work on one small project all day. It was really hard for me. I was far more interested in managing other people working on stuff. And so after that, I just went to a temp agency and was hey, here's me, here's my history, here's what I've just studied, do you have anything? And they just had 2 jobs, quite similar. One of them was sales support for a cybersecurity company. So writing contracts, statements of work, supporting the salespeople. And from there, I just worked my way up through that company over 2.5 years and met some really great people. They had a Melbourne office. I wanted to move back to Melbourne. I'd lived in Melbourne for a few years, So I just messaged one of them and said, do you know of any jobs? And they said Volkis. And then so it was the only job I had applied for in like 7 years. It was a very harrowing experience, but yeah, got it. And then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, very cool.
I think COVID definitely made a lot of people think about their lives and maybe connect more with their true self and their authentic selves. Yeah, it's very interesting how you're saying that, because I think for us, COVID was also a very defining time where a lot of things have happened. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And we both lived in Melbourne during COVID.
Ah,
Could we
yeah.
just time, though, but-
Yeah.
we moved to Canberra 2 weeks apart.
Oh, wow.
It was around the same time. We didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, yeah, it was a kind of escape. Yeah, because lockdown was pretty brutal in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, with software development study, what was your most enjoyable part? Because you talked about it with such passion about doing the study itself. Yeah.
It was like the team environment, like all working together on something, building something. Like we got to come up with it was all project based. So we would come up with ideas and build them within like 2 days. And it was only ever like MVP. It was never like quality work or anything. I made really good friends I've still got that, I don't know, it's like a high pressure cooker situation, and you sort of like, you like cry, you like fall apart, but like you also like really bond.
Yeah, trauma bonding.
Yeah, trauma bonding. Yeah, it's not ideal. It was a boot camp. So it was essentially 6 months where you try and get like 2 years of study into 6 months. So it's like, it's full on. You're expected to be working the whole time. They do it that way so that you can do the first 2 months from home and then the rest of it on site, so that people with other careers can just take a career break to do it. They don't have to quit their jobs. And like lots of parents would go and do it if they had kids. So it was very, very intense. But yeah, I just loved the team. And I always got to be team lead, which was really fun for me. So yeah, I loved that. Yeah.
And going back to, because obviously software development, and you were saying doing that course is obviously very intense, and you had to put in a lot of effort in a short space of time. This fashion industry is obviously also very kind of cutthroat. And I remember I read that you had done a show at Shanghai Fashion Week, which I thought was really interesting. So can you talk about how that opportunity came up?
Yeah, so that was through Otago Polytech, which is where I went. And they did a sister city project with Shanghai where 5 people were selected from the grad class, which was only 20. So, I mean, 25% is pretty good. And we got to go over and present our final collections at Shanghai Fashion Week as part of a green show. So you had to have built your collection around sustainability and recycling. And, you know, part of mine was I used leather and I used a laser cutter to like carve out a bunch of little scales that I then turned into scale mail. I think Lord of the Rings elves kind of vibe. But fashion. And then I used like the waste of that to like wrap it around and like all the weird shapes that came from the waste. So like the idea was to just use everything that I had available to me. And it was also already secondhand materials. And so, yeah, we got to go to Shanghai and travel around and take photos of our collections with Emily Volkis Green, who is now like a super famous photographer in New York.
Oh, very cool.
And yeah, so we got to, just live like real fashion designers. But it was amazing.
And what year was this?
This was 2012.
Okay. And yeah, and how did you find China?
I mean, I can't even remember now how long we were there, maybe a week and a half. It was amazing, but it was like so intense. It's so busy that every gorgeous place we wanted to photograph, we had to get there at like 4:35 in the morning to have no people there. So it was like every day you were doing that. And yeah, pretty intense. One of my really good friends, Sam Ralph, was with me and he can just do anything. So he just was like, Matt, we're doing this, you with me. And I was like, okay. So I just got to be passenger princess the whole time. It was great.
Yeah, cool.
You've mentioned using everything, like all of the materials and also the secondhand materials. And I really admired how in your article you said that you were questioning some of the impact of fashion on the planet. So I had a question for you, because obviously the technology industry also has an impact on the planet.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays with the rise of AI. I just wanted
The
to
water.
See,
Stressing out about the water.
yeah, well, there you go. I think you're answering it already without me asking it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on it? And
Yeah. I've got no idea what we do because I feel like the train is already going. It's like you can't stop it.
Yeah.
So I've got no idea. I'm personally not an AI forward person. I'm not frothing it. I find some of it really interesting and really smart, and I think the people creating it are incredible and it can be used in really valuable ways. But I also feels like it takes things away, especially like artists, like seeing art, AI art imagery is real cringe for me. Like I'm just like, because not only is it taking away from like someone's job, but it's also like, you didn't really put any time into this. Like you don't like think about your audience and you're like, hey, I'm doing this. I want you to come to this amazing event. But I can look from your poster. I know you spent 2 minutes tops building that poster. So it just feels like they don't, But yeah, I mean, I still use it. Like our CRM system is moving to AI forward, and it's been pretty impressive watching the updates like happen behind the scenes of things that I would be doing otherwise and are now just happening for me. So it's freeing up a lot of time. Yeah.
And CRM is customer relations.
Yeah. Yep. So just like tracks all your customers, contacts and deals.
Yeah. I would like to sometimes decipher acronyms.
Yes, fair enough.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Because obviously we people come from different industries and in technology. We catch ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're just always speaking acronyms, and our listeners are like, can you just explain?
Yeah.
I remember the same opinion where I was very AI forward when it first started. Yes, and I was like, this is amazing. Think about the time that we can save and all of this progress we're going to make and we can actually help a lot of people. I think the way that it's kind of going now, as you said, the chain is definitely gone and it's been pushed in a lot of software without really communicating to, I think, the consumers as well. And then when you find out about climate change, I think that's where I really started like questioning my prompts. Like, do I really need to ask AI?
I know.
Yeah, I can kind of figure this out, I think. Yeah, and just being a bit more mindful. Yeah, but it's amazing what you do with automation and making your job easier. Yes. But why security in terms of, the jump between software?
So, yeah, it wasn't a choice. It just happened. But I've always been, you go out with the girls on a night out and like some idiot is bugging you. I'm always the one to turn around and tell them to bugger off. Like,
yeah, so am I.
I'm always like, stay out of here, like leave them alone. So I've got that mama bear protection thing in me. And I've always been able to protect, able to stand up for other people. Not great at standing up for myself, but that happens. Don't like injustice. I never saw cybersecurity as being for me. It wasn't like, it didn't feel even remotely interesting. Even when studying software development, everyone's like, let's pick hacker names. I was like, I don't care. But because I got the temp job, I was just like invited into this world of incredibly intelligent people, puzzle solvers and protectors, and they all really deeply cared about what they were breaking, because they talked about the real world risks of what we do, and some really intelligent, entertaining, charming people that I work with. And I also have experienced nerd culture in high school, and it was not mine, and I remember doing well in maths and that, like pissing people off because they were like, this isn't for you. And I mean, I don't think they ever said it, but I've got their names stored here. It didn't feel like I was invited into the group until I got into cybersecurity. And then they were like, all we want from you is for you to understand what we're doing. And like, I was a salesperson. I still am, technically a salesperson, although I work for a team. Matt's behind the camera. Slowly.
Like when you're talking about sales and then saying how you're good at maths and stuff, and you obviously have run your own business. Maybe you could even talk a little about what type of business you had in the fashion industry, and also how did the skills that you learned from running your own business, how does that translate into working in cybersecurity now?
So I wanted to start a fashion label, but I was committed to doing it sustainably. So I would only use recycled materials. And I knew then it was a hard hill to climb. Like I was really setting myself up as competing with fast fashion, but I did it more from like an artistry point of view of like, here's the story of what I've made. Here's me. Here's my friends. We had a blog where like my friends could write articles about what they'd experienced being the young woman. Like I was 24, I think, when I started, and it became like a community. And so I started with making what I called slutty crop top, which was just like,
I know it.
it was like made out of like pieces of leather that I had like patched together and made. Yeah, it's just like great material to work with. And I had a connection with a place in Timaru that was able to give us like these offcuts, like really cheap, like a bag of them. And I was quite physically competent, so I was able to work with really difficult materials. So that's my special thing. And so yeah, made a few clothes, made a bag, and then had stuff left over from the leftover and turned that into a pair of earrings, just like tassel earrings. So this was 2016. Tassel earrings were all the rage. I made $22,000 on tassel earrings. So I made over 500 pairs. I literally made someone a top and a pair of earrings that was a friend of mine, and she posted about them. And then like Instagram was blowing up at the time, and you could just send things out to people and they would post them on their stories. You didn't have to like pay them or have a contract or anything. It would just be like, if they liked them, they'd post them. And I was friends with lots of like fun, cool art people in the industry. Yeah. And then so it was 2 years of just like making earrings every day, like all the bags, all the tops, everything went away. It was just full earrings. I had an intern at one point, which was quite fun, very nerve-wracking. And then all of a sudden it died. It was like people didn't want earrings anymore. Fashion's so cyclical and trend-based. And then I tried a few other things. And then it was almost, oh my God, like I actually don't think I can handle this anymore. Like, because in order to make real money, I would have had to put my prices way up. No one would have bought them. I was working maybe for like $6 an hour, that if I was paying myself, I was just like surviving. And then I had to pick up a part-time job as well for like going out and stuff. So how that affected cybersecurity is just being self-sufficient and not having imposter syndrome. I'm not using that word anymore, because I know that I can do it. I just need some time. So like anytime I'm now worried, like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's too much. I just go, well, you did that and that was fine. So just do it. You'll figure it out. Like you might not know how to do it right now, but like you will figure it out. You've done it before, kind of thing.
I really loved it in your other article where he talked about burnout and taking care of yourself and knowing your limits and boundaries, and how you didn't want to look at a sewing machine.
Yeah.
And I just really resonated with that. Do you think having this experience also helps in such a, I guess, very stressful job sometimes as a sailor?
Yeah, it has taught me about breaks. And I learned this in fashion, where a friend that I was working with, when I would get really stressed, she would say, it's just frocks. It's just frocks. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. And when you're really like zoned in on something and feeling overwhelmed, that is the most important time for you to take a break. And that is like the opposite of hack culture. Like they will disagree with me completely. But for me, it's when I'm feeling overwhelmed and like panicky that it's like, just write down exactly where you are, leave your tabs open, lock your computer, get up, go outside. And then just take a minute and then come back. And lunchtime, like I used to call it the sacred hour on Slack so that no one from work would bother me. Only because we have people from like Queensland, it would be like in a different time zone and they might not realize, where I like go for a walk, or I vacuum the house, or I'm in the garden, or I go to the gym, where I'm like determined to have a lunch break. So I'm quite serious about that in order to balance myself. And then also like finishing at a decent time so I can like cook a proper meal. Yeah, so I'm like very strict about the work-life balance, even if it's just at home.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's so easy, especially I find when I work from home, I can just sit there for hours and suddenly realize, 3 hours have just gone past and I've just been sitting here. I've never moved. And I really want to go back to that point where you said that you don't want to talk about imposter syndrome anymore, because I think that's really interesting. Because Anna and I talk about this too, and think that, it's actually really important to stop using that kind of language, because it's just not helping, women especially in, say, an industry like cybersecurity, which is very male dominated, where women are kind of always talking, like you go to these events and everyone's always talking about imposter syndrome. It's like, why don't we talk about building each other's confidence? I know. And talking about how we all feel like who don't belong here. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you, if there are women listening who, or just anyone really, who might feel like they're suffering from imposter syndrome, what's your advice to them?
Well, first of all, what's the definition of imposter syndrome? Because you actually feel like you don't belong, that you don't deserve to be in that room. Because like, did you write a CV and did you do the things you said on your CV? Did you have an interview? Did you get the job? If you feel like you're the wrong person for the job, then your employer's made a mistake, not you. And the other thing is it imposter syndrome, or are you just nervous? Have you just got maybe a bit of anxiety? Because everybody has that. And like, I have men that always talk about imposter syndrome as well. And the way they describe it to me sounds like anxiety. It just sounds like you're scared and you need to just feel scared for a bit. And like, that's okay. But as soon as you use that language of imposter syndrome, it's like you suffocate yourself and you stop yourself from being able to function. It stops you in your path. I own a mare who's the rugby player from the Olympics. She was in this interview. She's like incredible. And they said, how do you handle imposter syndrome? So first of all, assuming she has it is not great. And that happened at the last International Women's Day I went to. How do you handle it?
Yeah.
And she just said, I don't have it. She's like, I have worked so hard for this. And then I go out and do it. Like, I have evidence. I don't have imposter syndrome. And it was like so cool to watch. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I was like, no, I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm nervous. I'm scared. And sometimes you need people in your life to really push you. Like, you know, the guys who hired me that were like, you can do all of this. And I'm like, okay. Like, I must have been good in the interview if they thought that. I must have shown something. I must have shown that I could. And my last two managers as well, both men who were just like, you can do this. And we used to joke that one of them just didn't want to do it himself. So he'd see if I could do it. But he really just believed that I was capable of things beyond what I was doing at the time. And I mean, he was right. So yes, I'm really grateful to, my last two managers and the guys I work with now for just being like, just do it. And I think I don't know if that's advice for women, but it's like, if you're given an opportunity, then just take it.
Do it scared.
Do it scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's terrifying.
Oh.
Every second, but you have a choice whether you live your life scared, but you actually live it, or you don't live.
Yeah. And there's some people you can tell that you're scared. Yeah. Some people you don't need to tell. Some people you just go, okay, I'll figure it out. And then you turn around and you're like, oh my God, like, go on out. And then you put your brave face back on again and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it now. And they'll just believe you, because if you're confident enough, like, they'll believe you, and then that gives you more confidence to do it. So, I mean, I'm not doing rocket science. Like, none of this stuff it's that crazy that I'm doing, but, you know, I'm managing this department of the business is something I had never done before. So I went from, you know, managing 20 clients to now like 60. And partners. So it's it is a big jump. So I was scared. But I look back at it now and I'm like, I don't think if I didn't deserve to do it, I wouldn't be here almost 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's an important message because, like you said, a lot of people are scared to do things, and that in their mind becomes imposter syndrome, like, oh, I shouldn't be here, I don't deserve to be here or something. But yeah, it's just about stepping out of your comfort zone. And like you said, you didn't, had never done this before you started this job, but you just learned on the job. And like, that's the same. I feel like for me, you know, I started a lot of roles where I didn't necessarily have all the experience. But again, like you said, my manager, obviously, all the people who were hiring me obviously saw that I was capable of learning and being able to do it. So yeah, it's just about being able to just try, and I think also ask questions. If you don't know, find someone who knows and who's willing to give up their time to show you.
Yeah, and not expect that, you know, I guess as people are going to take you by the hand and walk you through everything. Like, actually then, as you said before, ask questions that kind of carve your own path, find the things that you really want to do. Because for me, like, you know, getting my first job in cyber while I'm still studying cyber, and it was just because I do everything that I do at my study, then I use it for my work, then I use it to, like, you know, other things that I do outside of it. And it's like, everything you need, you already have. You just need to look for it. But I think your message to the managers was so important, and that encouragement, but not like, I believe in you, come on, you can do it. You know, and constantly, like, you know, saying that, but it's like, no, you can do it, that's okay. You're like, nothing else. You just do it, yeah. I don't need to hold your hand. You can do it. I am standing here, but and I got you. Yeah, I don't need to give you a pep talk every 3 minutes. I I don't know about you. Like I get no, if somebody gives me a pep talk every few results, it's okay. It's fine. We've been through this. But I think a lot of this fear, especially I think for women, and you're also talking an article about non-binary persons, and I guess anyone that is a bit outside of what like we talk about masculinity models, and outside of that, I guess the nerd culture, and you say the mean nerd culture, and we just did a talk in Cybercorn about nerd masculinity, or the revenge of the nerd. And I was a nerd like you, and I loved math, and like I saw anime that might have a few Facebook statuses that haunt me that say that, how much I love physics and my favorite subject. And I didn't have that, that I don't belong, but I knew that I had to give up being like myself in order to belong. And I really think that, well, I guess I wonder if you think that as well, that we can redefine what being a nerd means.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely a nerd. Yeah. And like I get, even if it's like, I'll just get, I don't know, isn't it just like being passionate about something that it takes all of your focus and like you want to talk about it all the time? Like, that for me could be like, I built my desk at home. I wanted a really nice desk. And so I built it and I learned like everything I possibly could about like wood filler and sanding. And I would like get covered in it, and it would be like, and I never finished the legs. It's just sitting on top of another desk, like, and then I'll go and do something else. I don't know. It's like about having passion and being interested in picking apart puzzles and, taking the time to learn everything you can about a subject, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's the definition of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, being that
There's no mean nerds at Volkis, by the way.
Oh, well, shout out to Volkis. Well, but good work culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, we better wrap up at that point. But thank you so much, Hortense, for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in again for another episode of Lost in Cyberia.
And we will catch you next time.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.